Hi everyone, good afternoon, good night, whatever time you're watching this, or good morning for some of you. This is Professor Keys here, and I'm here to talk about Chapter 2 in your textbook, which is the basic financial statement. Now, once again, please remember, I'm doing this on a different version of Excel than the one that you may have, but it should relatively be the same. Also, please remember that I'm recording this live. There are no edits, so please be mindful of any noise, background, or anything that may pop up. I am not responsible. All right, so with that being said, let's talk about Chapter 2. Now, the title of Chapter 2 is the Basic Financial Statements, and this chapter discusses the basic financial statements. Now, if you can recall from your accounting classes, is that an accountant's job is to analyze transactions in a business, record those transactions in a systematic way, and to report to the business owners how they're doing, um, how their business is doing. Are they making money or not? Well, the way how we communicate as accountants is through what we call financial statements. There are actually 4 financial statements, but your book actually talks about 3, and I'm going to focus on those 3. The ones that your book talks about is the income statement. Now, your income statement in summary tells a business how it's doing, how much profit that business has made. So, like most people, when they get into business, all they care about is how much money did I make, how much money did I make. So, that's one of the first financial statements that we usually provide a business owner, and that is the income statement. The income statement is calculated by taking all revenues, subtracting expenses. Now, revenue is any money that a business makes through selling a product or providing any type of service. All right, so any revenue is earned whenever a business provides a service or sells a product. So if I take all my revenue, which is funds earned, and I minus all expenses, which is money I spent to make that money, what I'll have is either a net income or a net loss, depending on if I made more money than I spent. So that is basically the gist of the income statement. The other financial statement that your book actually mentions, if you go to page 44, is a balance sheet. Now, the balance sheet tells a business owner it gives them a snapshot of their business at a point in time. So if I say prepare the balance sheet as of December 31st, 2015, I expect to see on that balance sheet a picture of what the business looks like in terms of assets, in terms of liabilities, okay, and in terms of equity that our owner has in the business. An asset is the things that the business owns. A liability are things that the business owes, and equity is the amount of money an owner has invested basically in the business, how much he or she has retained in the business as well. The fourth financial, or third financial, I should say, that they talk about is your statement of cash flows. It says here the statement of cash flows outlines the sources of the firm's cash inflows and shows where the cash outflows went. So even though you may have an income statement that tells you how much money you've made, you have to remember that a lot of companies these days, their income or revenue is not earned through cash. A lot of people are swiping credit cards. So a company may be revenue strong, but they could be cash poor if a lot of that revenue is based upon credit sales. All right. So here comes your final financial statement, which is your cash flow, and it tells it tells where a business is getting its money from, through investors, through operations, or through investments, and where is the business spending its money. So here you have 3 very unique financial statements that are communicating to a business owner how well they are doing financially, and that is our job. So in this chapter, we're going to learn how to use Excel to expedite the process of preparing financial statements. Now, there are a couple of rules that you need to be cognizant of while we go through these financial statements. if you go to your books, page 44, they call them principles, general principles. I'm in the second to last paragraph from the end. Principle 1. We want to prepare these financial statements and let Excel do all the work, all the calculation, any adding, any subtracting. That is why we're using the program. Principle 2 says we're going to format this worksheet in such a way that we're going to make it easy to understand. Because if I just throw a bunch of numbers on here, I might not be able to know what they mean. If I give that data to the bank, it needs to be so clear that they could pick up this document and get a good snapshot of what's going on in the company. Another thing that your book talks about is using worksheets. So we're going to prepare 3 different financial statements, and each financial statement should have its own worksheet. And this worksheet is here. If you remember from chapter 1, this is a worksheet. So like say the first worksheet will be income statement, because that's what I'm preparing. I go to a second one and I'll prepare my balance sheet. Reason being, we're going to talk about this. We're going to be linking financial statements and all that. So this is important as we go through. So are you ready? All right, let's go for it. So what I'm going to do, just as we did in chapter 1, I'm going to follow the book step by step and outline what I expect of you guys as we go through the chapters, all right, or through the chapter, I should say. All right, so I need you guys to follow me. I am on page 45. Okay, now if you look on page 45, you'll notice that they have an income statement for us here already. What we're going to walk through is how to create this income statement how I want it, because on your homework you will also have your own income statement to prepare, so you got to know how to get it done. So exhibit 2.1 on page 45 basically gives you the gist of what it is that we're going to be preparing. But of course, I'm going to walk you through it. So turn with me to page 46. All right. So we're going to begin building the income statement with the titles in A1 to A3. So I'm going to highlight A1 to A3, and to highlight, click on your mouse, hold it down, drag it. All right. It says as time goes by, if we need to add a row or a column, we will do that. In A1, we're going to type Elvis Products. Let me move that out of the way. International. In A2, income statement. And in A3, for the year ended December 31st, not 31, 32, I should say, 2014. Alright, so here you have your title of the company, the financial statement it is you're preparing, and the date in which you're preparing it as of. Okay, so what we're going to do is, this is going to be our heading, and our heading is going to be over, we're going to center this. So if you go to, it says that now we're going to center the tiles by selecting A1 to C3, go to Format, alright, select Alignment, alright, and unfortunately, do I have alignment? No, so I'm gonna go Format, I'm on Home, and I'm gonna go here, okay, and I'm gonna center it, okay. Your book says choose Format Cell, select the Align tab, and then select Center Across Section, okay, on the horizontal. Note that the cell Excel provides an icon in the alignment column called Merge and Center. This does the same thing. Alright, so guys, I'm going to do a merge and center because I don't have the feature that they want. So I'm going to highlight here, and I'm going to go A1 to C1. I'm going to merge, and it automatically centers it for me. And I'm going to do the same thing, merge. I'm going to highlight, drag it across, merge. Alright, so it accomplishes the same task. Okay. Alright, so what's going to happen now is we're going to move line by line through the income statement and entering a label followed by the value. Alright. It says if you go to, we're going to start with A5. Enter the labels exactly as they appear in 2-1. So I am going to enter my label 2014, 2015. Notice I left a column because I am going to enter the data just as how I see it. Alright. Just to give you an idea. Selling and admin expenses. Fixed expenses. So I'm typing it all in just as how it is. Depreciation expense. EBIT. Interest expense. Earnings before taxes. Taxes. And net income. Alright. So basically I went through Exhibit 1, 2.1 or 2-1 and I entered in all the account names that I needed in cell A. If you notice, you'll see here like your cost of goods sold is kind of covering, and I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit more. Alright, so if you notice your cost of goods sold is covering 2 cells. Remember from last week, you go in between the cells and you could double click, or you could just click on the cell and drag it. I see a spelling error here, expenses. Alright, and if I go through, if I see any, I'll do that. So first thing first, I'm gonna create a border. Alright, make my income statement look pretty. I'm gonna highlight and I'm gonna go to my borders and shading, and I want a bottom and a top border, and I can't find it. And you guys might be really good and you may see it, but I don't see it here. Undo. So I don't see it. So let me tell you what I do when I want a bottom and top border and I don't see it. I go to the border icon, click. Okay. Oh, but I see it right here. Perfect. Alright, no need to show you my trick anymore. So let's continue. So my sales was 3.8 million 50. 3,432. No. 2005. Cost of goods sold 3,250. Guys, remember from last week we said that you could have Excel put the commas in for you by just highlighting the cell, hitting comma. Alright, and I'm doing it without zeros, so I'm going to decrease my zeros, so I click on that. Okay, so here, if you take your sales and you subtract your cost of goods sold, you get gross profit. So of course, in keeping with the principle, in making Excel do everything for me, I'm going to create a formula. And that formula says equal, I want to take a B6, which is my sales, and subtract it from B7, which is my cost of goods sold. That gives me a gross profit of 600, which is the same thing in the book. I'm going to go here. You could drag your formula over if you want. Alright, see, it updates. C7, here it is, C7, 6 minus C7, same thing, or you could rewrite it. Alright, so what I'm going to do is going to highlight my cells. I'm going to put it in bold because that's how it is in the book, and italics. Bold italics. What I'm also going to do is highlight my bottom border. just like the book. Okay, let's moving on. Selling expenses. I'm going to do 2014 first. 330, 300. Okay, 20, 1, 2, 3. Alright, to calculate my earnings before income and taxes, I'm going to take my gross profit minus all of these. So I'm going to create a formula for that. That formula says I'm going to equal gross profit minus the sum of all of these. I'm going to hold down my mouse and drag all the areas, put it back in a comma, enter. Okay, I'm going to do that again. 2015, 240,000. Okay, 100, 1, 2, 3. 18,900. I want these all to be formatted, so I'm going to say I want commas in all of these and no zeros. Okay, to calculate my earnings before income and taxes, EBIT, I'm going to equal my gross profit, which is C8, minus the sum of all of these, because I want all of these to be subtracted. Hold your mouse down, drag it, close your bracket. Okay, here's my formula. I hit enter, it's updated. Alright, again, I'm gonna highlight this, bold it, italics, and I'm gonna highlight my depreciation expense and put a line at the bottom of it. Or I could highlight this and put a line at the top too, so whatever your preference is. Alright, so what is my interest expense and what are my taxes? Okay, my interest expense is 76 grand for 2014. So if I take my interest expense, my EBIT, earning before interest and taxes, and minus my interest expense, I have earnings before taxes. And I'm going to do the same thing here. 65.25 is my interest. So if I take my EBIT, C12, minus my interest, which is in C13, I get 146.6. Again, highlight, bold, italics, and you want a bottom or top. In this case, I'll put a top. Oops. Edit, undo. I only want it here. Looking good. So what are my taxes? Based upon the problem, my tax rate, oops, can't spell, is 40%. So I'm going to put 40, but I know it's a percent, so I'm going to hit my little percent button. Why are you doing this to me? Oh, let's see if I can fix this. Excuse me. Alright. Point 4 is 40%. Alright, so once, if you notice what happened was I put 40. And when I hit the percentage button, it made it 4,000%. When I put 0.4, it kind of went back. Alright, I think it was just my formula. So if you come across that issue, just make sure you fix it. So my taxes are 40% of my earnings before taxes. I know that my tax rate is 40%, so I'm going to use a formula. And that formula says equal, give me my earnings before taxes, and shift star my tax rate of 40%. Again, equal, give me my earnings before taxes, shift star, my star is above my 8, okay, 40%. Alright, we'll put a decimal here. Okay, So what is my net income? I'm going to take my earnings before taxes and subtract it from my net income. So I'm going to say take EBIT minus this. I get 44.2. I'm going to drag it over. I get 87,960. I am going to highlight, bold, italic, oops, don't underline, italic, and then I'm going to highlight these two. And I want a double top and double bottom border, just like the one in the book. Okay, and here you have it. Alright, could get all fancy. Put a thick border here at the bottom. So pretty up your income statement, right? I'm gonna save mine. UPI income statement, chapter 2. Alright, so there you have it, you ladies and gentlemen. Here's your income statement, nice and formatted, ready for a client. What I'm going to do is, because I want to work on other financial statements, I'm going to put a sheet here. I'm going to change the sheet, and I'm going to do that by double clicking on the sheet 1. It highlights it. I'm going to hit delete, and I'm going to say this is my income statement, and hit enter. And there you have it. My income statement is complete. I'm going to go back to see if I missed anything. I'm on page 48. Alright, so if you go to page 48, at the bottom, they want you to play around a little bit, because what they're trying to say is, now that you have created formulas in your spreadsheet, you could change all of your core data and everything else will basically be updated. Like for instance, let's say I decided to change my sales to 3 mil or 300,000, 150. Too much. 3 mil. Please note that my net income gets updated. Alright, so now that and this is negative, right? So because it has a negative number here. So now that we've created this, these numbers, or these formulas I should say, I could update the sheet and everything in the sheet gets updated at the same time. So I'm going to change this back. 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So I'm back to 87,960. Alright, so the next thing we're going to prepare is our balance sheet. Alright, if you go to page 49, it says here the balance sheet is usually depicted in 2 sections. You have your assets section, which is at the top left or left side, and the liabilities and owner section at the bottom or right side. It is important to realize that the balance sheet must balance, hence your assets must be equal to liabilities plus equity. Okay? Each of these sections is usually further divided into subsections. Okay? Under the asset section of your balance sheet, you have 2 types of assets. You could have a current asset or a fixed asset. A current asset is anything that can be converted to cash within a year. A fixed asset is a more permanent type of asset that you have for a very long period of time. So you could read up on that. Also, on the liabilities section, you may have current liabilities or long-term liabilities. Current liabilities are anything that's due within a year, because remember, liabilities mean you owe someone. And your long-term liabilities mean that you owe someone for a longer period of time, longer than a year. So I want you guys to think about your mortgages, your car notes, any interest that might take you more than a year to pay off. it would go in your long-term liability section. The other section of your income statement is your financial statement is your owner's equity. Okay, this is the difference between the value of your total assets and your total liabilities. Okay, usually this equity section is divided into contributed capital versus retained earnings. Guys, if you notice, if you have a company, you could make money from being in business, or you could make money through getting investors. The reason why you separate both contributed capital from retained earnings is because retained earnings is the money that the business makes on its own over time. Contributed capital is money that the owner invests. Keeping this separate means you are able to see how the company is being funded. Are they relying on their own funds over time and the money that they're making, or all of this is just being done based upon investors? Okay, so you want to keep those two separated. All right, it says the process of building a balance sheet in Excel is very similar to building an income statement. Okay, in Exhibit 2.2, which is on page 50, they have an example. Okay, so we're going to recreate this balance sheet in the same document but a different workbook. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to a new workbook, which is at the bottom, double click on it, delete the name, type in balance sheet. And like with the principles from before, we're going to link these documents as much as possible. Alright, I'm going to make sure that we link these as much as possible. I'm reading through. Alright, so here we go. So starting with, I'm going to change the view, make it a little bit bigger for you. Zoom. Starting with A1, I'm going to enter the title, Elvis Products International Balance Sheet as of December 31st, 2014. I'm going to highlight and merge, highlight, merge, highlight, merge. Please note that I didn't highlight everything all at once to merge it, because I've noticed that if I've done that in the past, it will merge everything into one big cell, and that's not what I want, because what happens with that is that you tend to lose some of your data. So I go through each row and I merge them separately. Alright, so the first thing we're going to start with is all our assets. Okay, then I'm going to do my other title is 2014. Alright, I can't type today. 2015. The first asset that we have is cash and cash equivalents. Accounts receivable. Now fill this out how you feel fit, guys. Inventory. Total current assets. Plant and equipment. Typing this from the book, guys. Page 50, 2-2. Accumulated depreciation. Net fixed assets. And you have total assets. Alright. Then I'm going to go with my liabilities and owner's equity. Starting with accounts payable. Short-term notes payable. Other current liabilities. total current liabilities. Can't spell, I'll fix that later. Long-term debt. Total liabilities. Common stock. Retained earnings. Total shareholder equity. Total liabilities and owner's equity. Alright, a lot of spelling mistakes, guys. I will go through that in a minute. But again, my cells are too small. I'm going to double click on the A. Widen that out. Gives it enough space. Again, already it starts looking good. I'm going to start with 2014 and I'm going to populate that. Find my total current assets equal the sum of all of these. Bracket. Okay. Property, plant, and equipment, 527. Accum, 166. 200. Alright. How do I find my net assets? I am going to take equal. I'm going to take my plant and equipment and I'm going to subtract my accumulated depreciation to get my plant assets. So let's stop here. Let's neat things up. Here, I'm going to highlight, hold it down, drag it across, highlight. I want a top and bottom border. Alright, total current inventory. I want all my numbers to have commas without the zeros. Okay. Total current liability. Total current liabilities. We're gonna highlight, bold, put it in italics, and we are going to highlight and give this a top border. I know we have it. Here we go. Okay. Of course, we will do 2015. Alright, so property, plant, and equipment, my net fixed assets will be here. Alright, and my total assets, which I'm going to highlight and put it in bold. Alright, my total assets is, I'm going to take the sum of total current assets and total net fixed assets. So I'm going to click on current assets. You could put add this and close the bracket. Okay, do this. I'm going to highlight and I'm going to go here and put a bottom and a top border. Alright. Liabilities and owner's equity. I skipped a line. I'm going to highlight. Give myself a bottom and a top border again. And start populating. AP 175 2. Short term 225,000. Other current liabilities 140,000. What is my total current liabilities? It is the sum of all three. Hold it down with your mouse, drag it down with your mouse, end it with a comma. Alright, again, you highlight, italics. Okay, highlight again, top border. Let's keep going. Long-term debt 424,612. Okay. So that means my total liabilities is current and long term. So to get my total liabilities, I must add these two. Okay, 964, 812. I'm gonna highlight again. Common stock, 460. Again, add these two. To get shareholder equity, you add your common stock and your retained earnings. And I think I made a mistake somewhere along the way, and I found it. It's 460 grand. Gold. Total liabilities plus equity. Total liability. Total equity. And I don't know what formula I just wrote. Equals the sum of. Oh wait, I forgot to put my plus. Total current liabilities plus total shareholders equity. Alright, so let me go through my numbers once again just to make sure I'm right, because I don't have the numbers in the book. Top and bottom. Alright, 175, 225 grand, 140 grand equals 540, 200. Okay. Alright. Okay. 460. Okay, 4 685 99988 equals the sum of what is the total liabilities plus owner's equity. Ah, there we go. 2015, do the same thing, except now that you have the formulas in 2011, you could just basically drag them across. 57,006. I'm going to drag this across, hold it, drag it. Hold it, drag it, hold it, drag it. There's a formula, hold it, drag it. There you have it. Let me save it. Oops. And here is my balance sheet. Okay. Now, the other few chapters talking about improving your readability, customizing your formats to your liking. Please feel free to play around with the fonts and everything that you have to get the type of financial statements that you want. Keeping in mind that because this is in a business setting, using cursive might not work in this setting. Please keep that in mind. Alright? So for now, this is half of chapter 2. The other half will come later. Talk to you soon.